Welcome to The Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. Now, I don't know if anyone here is a fan of sleep, but invest now because it is a rarer commodity every day. We've gotten used to that little tang of panic in the back of our throats when we remember that a former reality show star and unindicted co-conspirator is the commander-in-chief.
That's right.
Recently, that taste has been refreshed by the alarming flavor crystals in Bob Woodward's new book and the dominant emotion of our waking lives, fear.
Wow.
Woodward, when is it, Monday? On Monday, Bob Woodward will be joining me in that chair over there to make us all feel better?
I don't feel no evil. No weapon formed.
In this book, Woodward paints a portrait of a White House in complete disarray, led by a narcissistic madman. So, the huge. For instance, Woodward writes that Trump orders his most popular tweets printed out so that he can study them. Much like students will study them in their future American history textbook, we're sorry. All right, class, I want you to turn to page 326, low IQ Robert De Niro. And Woodward also says that senior staff are distressed by the president's inability to grasp the issues facing our country. For instance, when Homeland Security Advisor Tom Bossert asked Trump if he had a minute to talk, President Trump responded, "I want to watch the Masters. You and your cyber are going to get me in a war with all your cyber." Not sure exactly what he means by cyber, unless that's what he calls the poop emoji. So you get the impression that they've tried to dumb it down for the president. At one point, Trump was given what they describe as a Reader's Digest version of a Hezbollah briefing. And when that didn't work, they gave him Hamas for kids and ISIS beat. And with zero faith in our commander-in-chief, Trump's cabinet has gone to extreme lengths to protect the country from his bad decisions. When the president was about to sign a document breaking our trade agreement with South Korea, White House economic advisor Gary Cohn stole the letter off of Trump's desk, which he told a colleague he removed to protect national security and that Trump did not notice it was missing. He didn't know it was missing. This is just like back in the 90s when after a year, the kidnappers returned Eric. Now, the book, happy ending. Happy ending on that one.
They didn't want
for the kidnappers. Now, the book quotes Chief of Staff John Kelly saying of Trump, "He's an idiot." But Kelly denies it, writing, "I spend more time with the president than anyone else, and we have an incredibly candid and strong relationship. He always knows where I stand, and he and I both know this story is total BS." Strong words. Almost as strong as his statement from May when someone else accused him of calling Trump an idiot. "I spend more time with the president than anyone else, and we have an incredibly candid and strong relationship. He always knows where I stand, and he and I both know this story is total BS." Apparently, John Kelly insults Trump so much that he has a form letter for denying it. "The reports of me calling the president the idiot king of Mount Stupid are false. The president and I have a strong relationship, and I would never say that he is dumber than a bag of hammers that ate paint chips. He and I both know this story is total BS. To believe it, you'd have to be as dumb as President Donald J. Trump." But Kelly fans here tonight, or Mad Lib fans, Trump is fighting back too. He says that Woodward's book is completely false, tweeting, "Isn't it a shame that someone can write an article or book, totally make up stories, and form a picture of a person that is literally the exact opposite of the fact, and get away with it without retribution or cost? Don't know why Washington politicians don't change libel laws? That's not actually a question. But I don't know how sentences work. I should not be president. So, question mark? So the president says that nothing in the book is true, and that none of this is actually happening. On the other hand, one thing we know to be true is that when it comes to Trump, whatever you think is happening is happening. Exhibit A, an editorial that came out like an hour before this taping in the New York Times titled, "I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration." Mr. President, they traced the resistance. It's coming from inside the White House. Get out of there! And stay out of there! It's just get for your own. Just
The sunken place.
And what's shocking is, it was written by the Secretary of... Because the Times took the rare step of publishing an anonymous op-ed. The author is only identified as a senior official in the Trump administration whose identity is known to us and whose job would be jeopardized by its disclosure. Come on. This person works for the Trump administration. Their job is jeopardized by their job. This piece clearly, it's written by someone who works for the administration, believes in its policies and goals, and still thinks the president is a dangerous idiot. How many people like that could there be in the White House? I'm going to guess, count the people in the White House and subtract 1. So, I'm not great at math.
Yeah.
I'm not great at math.
It's the loneliest
but that's
number that you'll ever do.
So his staff has been defending Trump from Woodward's book all day. But now someone inside, maybe one of those same people, has found the courage to stand up and say, nope, it's all true. P.S. Hide my name from the bad orange man. Now, the author throws a lot of shade at the president. For example, saying that many Trump appointees have vowed to do what we can to preserve our democratic institutions while thwarting Mr. Trump's more misguided impulses until he is out of office, which I hope means they've hidden the nuclear launch codes where he will never find them, like in a salad. And I can't do this. I can't. And the op-ed defines the biggest problem posed by the president. The root of the problem is the president's amorality. Anyone who works with him knows he is not moored to any discernible first principles that guide his decision-making. Now, I disagree. He clearly has 2 first principles: hungry and horny. And occasionally, horngry. But the anonymous staffer says there are some heroes here, people like them. It may be cold comfort in this chaotic era, but Americans should know that there are adults in the room. We fully recognize what is happening, and we are trying to do what's right, even when Donald Trump won't. That's not cold comfort. That's no comfort. That's like a parent saying to their child, honey, I know you're being bullied at school, but I will protect you as long as the bully doesn't find out I'm helping. That kid terrifies me. The so-called adult in the room here says that they have considered extraordinary methods to stop Trump, writing, there were early whispers within the cabinet of invoking the 25th Amendment, which would start a complex process for removing the president, but no one wanted to precipitate a constitutional crisis. Now, I want to point out that technically, the 25th Amendment is not a constitutional crisis. It's a constitutional remedy. That's like saying, I know the house is on fire, but we can't get the extinguisher. No one wants to participate in breaking all that glass first. Instead of removing Trump, the author has pledged to do what we can to steer the administration in the right direction until, one way or another, it's over. That, you clap now. That's not that comforting. It's like going on a road trip and your mom saying, Dad's either driving us to Six Flags or careening us off a cliff into the sea. One way or another, there will be a picture of us going, ah! After reading this thing, I don't know whether to be reassured or even more scared than before. So I think I'll go with reassured that I was right to be so scared. We got a great show for you tonight. Rob Lowe is here. So is Secretary John Kerry. But when we return, Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh says absolutely nothing. Stick around.